Welcome everyone to another wonderful episode here at Jaws Podiatry. This is going to be something new. Today we have actually our photographer, cameraman is actually the patient. Something relatively new. This video I think is going to, I think it's the first video, and whatever you do, do not hit stop. Raw footage. We continue. First video that we talk about fungus, toenail fungus, fungus among us. You know, there's so many people, so many millions of people battling toenail fungus. And I said, you know what, let's take the liberty here to talk a little bit about that and what protocol I like to use. And again, not all protocols are created equal. Different clinicians have different protocols. I'm going to tell you guys what has worked for me. Now, let's first take a look at the clinical presentation. Patient, take a look at your own clinical presentation. Just be very gentle with the camera. Let's go ahead and maybe bring your foot up a little bit so that people can see there. So this patient has presented to our office with discoloration times 8 months, possible fungus, right great toenail plate. I start the conversation by basically saying, what haven't you tried? At this point, a lot of patients that come here have tried everything from A to Z, at least over-the-counter wise, right? Okay, let's bring up the camera this way. Thank you very much. Over-the-counter items, home remedies. I mean, I've heard almost pretty much, the craziest stories, craziest treatments and alternatives that people use over the counter. Now, it's very, very simple. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna beat around the bush. Let's go straight to the punch. The first thing that we want to do is identify the problem. And I I just told the patient, a lot of people that come here, think that if the nail's discolored, it's ugly, it's gotta be fungus. If it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's gotta be a duck. And the analogy is not necessarily true, right? It looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's probably a swan. What does that mean? There's something called also nail trauma syndrome. Trauma as a result of anything, shoe gear, work, something that landed on the nail plate will make it actually slightly discolored, thus appearing like fungus. Now, so the first thing that we like to do is identify the problem. We take a little piece of the nail, again, send it out to the lab and make sure that it is what it is and nothing else. Well, what else could it be? Well, it could be maybe, yeast, mold, bacteria, or simply, as I said before, nail trauma syndrome. So the first thing is we take a little piece of the nail, we send it out. A couple days later, we get the report. So let's make believe that this is a fungus, right? And we're going to focus our efforts fungus, right? The treatment of the possible fungus. We have the report. We read the report. We have fungus. So now what do we do? In my short career, I've basically used I would say pretty much anything underneath the sun in respect to offering, whether it be laser therapy, some a bunch of over-the-counter remedies. The path former device is a little micro drill. We basically drill little holes in the nail plate to help and assist the topical medication to actually seep into the nail plate, right? Hence the treatment of the topical. Make sure that we can increase its efficacy, okay? So at the end of the day, we can use A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all these treatments. At the end of the day, what I like to do, once we confirm the onychomycosis, the fungus, is depending, of course, on the health of the individual, very, very important, I like to use oral terbinafine, historically what they call Lamisil. Oral terbinafine is a 250 milligram tab. It's an oral antifungal medication. Works very, very well. I'll put this out there. Newer is not always better. A lot of clinicians, a lot of doctors, marketing laser for toenail fungus. Be very, very careful. Not all lasers are created equal. Ask the right questions. I've treated thousands and thousands of patients in the last 10 years in respect to using laser for toenail fungus. I'll say this, the numbers were not there. The percentages in respect to efficacy. So what I have personally seen that works the best is the oral antifungal regimen therapy. I like to use a very short, what we call a pulse dose course to not overload any other organs such as the liver. That is a contraindication for patients, right? If there's any issues with the liver, obviously we don't recommend this medication. There are some possibilities of drug-to-drug interactions as well. So that's something that we're very mindful that this medication doesn't get along with this medication, okay? Let's take some questions actually from the patient. Any questions? Let's start there.
Yes, so when you talk about the efficacy of the laser versus the oral medication, how long is the treatment for the oral treatment?
Excellent question. So I'll start off by saying that a lot of patients, some patients come in here and say, hey, Wagner, I don't care what the efficacy is. I just want you to treat, right? The nail with laser. And this patient may very well be a great candidate just because they may not qualify for taking the oral antifungal, right? As a result of A, B, and C. So at that point, we can exhaust all the conservative treatments, including but not limited to the laser, as well as the path former and some other treatments that we offer. In respect to the historical, right? Every doctor has their own regimen, whether it's a 30, 60, 90, I've seen up to 120 pill course, right, of the oral terbinafine. I do things a little bit different. I like, as I said before, pulse dose, which basically means 10 pills for the month, right? It is a strong medication, and I want to make I want to put this out there. A lot of people, as a result of society, right? It's a bad pill, right? It's a bad medication. Oh my God, my liver, it affects my liver. It doesn't affect the liver. The liver metabolizes the medication. It breaks it down. So there's a big difference. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Okay.
Let's go on.
It's what can I expect in terms of the change in color, or how would I know that treatment is working?
Excellent question. So let's make believe that this is the nail, right? This is the nail. This is, the toe. So basically right now, your nail is basically affected kind of like this, right? This is all discolored, okay? And we can maybe even go a little bit further. So the idea is once you take the medication, right? This is underneath the skin here, we have the nail root, right? And from the nail root, this is where we see the growth of the nail. So what we see here, the patient will start to take the medication. What we see here, what we actually see today, that goes away, right? The nail grows and you cut the nail. The nail grows and you cut the nail. The idea that once the new nail starts to grow out from the nail root, this is where we'll see new, right? And this will, and then we'll see more new, right? So this process, what I have shown everyone here, takes about 1 year. Nail plate growth is very slow. So we need to be very patient. Our biggest enemy is time. So that's really, really important, right? This is the problem. Dr. Wagner, I don't see any improvement. Well, the problem is that the improvement is only based on the rate of the nail plate growth. Okay, that's an excellent question. Next.
So, can I get any type of pedicures or any type of spa treatments during this treatment?
Listen, you're hired. You're asking all the right questions, right? This is great. So that's a great question. Yes. In respect, that's a loaded question. Pedicures and fungus. I mean, listen. I'll just say this: sanitation is important. So wherever you go, make sure that you do your homework, due diligence. Make sure that the sterilizer instrumentation and so on and so forth. That's all I'm going to say. So very, very important. Yes, can you? Sure, right? Because we are giving you an oral systemic therapy, the terbinafine, 250 milligrams. And again, it's a very strong medication. It'll linger even after the last pill that you take.
So as far as a treatment or regimen I should incorporate to keep the area dry, to keep the area free of any, external pressure, what do you advise moving forward?
Very simple. Another excellent question. You're hired. That's it. It's official. Okay. We do have what we call an antifungal, regimen, an antifungal eradication kit. Number one, obviously we want to make sure that we make those recommendations like shoes, right? Spray your shoes, an antifungal, whether it's a spray like Lysol, etc. Number one. Number two, the socks. Do your feet sweat? Do they not? We're essentially trying to create an antifungal, we'll say, environment, right? The topical, if your feet do sweat, an astringent, right, to dry up all that hyperhidrosis. We're essentially trying to implement anything and everything to maximize that final clinical outcome. So the antifungal topical medication, the antifungal shoe spray, the antifungal fungal cream, maybe in between the toes as well. So those are all the recommendations that we make.
Okay. Is there anything that a patient can do short of following your prescribed treatment to, I guess, accelerate? Even though I know you said 1 year, but as a patient, I guess my main concern would be not only efficacy, but, we are more so visually stimulated. So what kind of, it may be a redundant question, but what kind of assurance can you give me that, based on, your prescription, your clinical observation, that, my process will be in line with what you have experienced historically for something like this?
So I'll say this, there is no secret sauce to the treatment of toenail fungus. It's one of the most challenging, difficult conditions that we treat as, I believe, in my case as a podiatrist. The word cure doesn't exist here. I like to use the word management. Dr. White, and I've heard so many questions. What can it spread? Can it recur? If it goes away, can it come back? And these are all, medicine is not a perfect science. We all know that. However, our job is to maximize improvement in this particular case. One of the questions, because this is only one toenail out of 10, right? So if no one likes to show their unsightly toenails to the world, especially maybe here, in Miami, for example. A lot of people, that come here, Dr. Wagner, I just don't wear sandals. I go to the beach and I shove my toes in the sand type thing. But there are some aesthetic, solutions that we also recommend, for some people that are really, really adamant about, about the aesthetic appearance. No one likes to have an ugly toenail. And of course, at the core, our job is to make sure that we treat this aggressively, right? Because that's what I would want, and effectively. Because, as I said before, no one likes to have. Maybe some people do. Hey, maybe they're into that. Hey, you never know, right?
Absolutely.
Maybe I like that.
Right.
But no, that's the utter truth, right? I think the bottom line is this. We've gone through some, A to Z, start to finish today, kind of like the protocol that I like to use. Again, I'm not saying that what I'm saying is the only way. No, what I'm saying is that, again, my job is to put out there what I like to use, what has worked for me. We do see zillions of people, right? A lot of people that come here, here seeking solutions for toenail fungus. So again, it's what works for the patient. These are only recommendations that, that we make.
And my last question would be, is there any type of dietary adjustments that I would need to make as far as taking the medication? Should I reduce my intake of sugar or anything like that? What is your recommendation in reference to that?
I'm not well versed in, and I haven't read on any type of correlations between nutrition and clinical outcome of onychomycosis. Again, if it won't cause any harm per se, right? Only good, why not? But I am not well versed in that arena. Maybe I should be.
So I would just like to say, you have got to be the coolest podiatrist I've ever come across. I was looking for a doctor to treat my toenail fungus. And as I scroll through social media, because as you know, we are social people. We get our information, unfortunately, from all social platforms. And when I was able to click on your site, I was impressed with your capacity to explain to the patient, what to expect, what your probable course of treatment could be. I saw the little drilling of the holes in the toenail. I was like, this guy's really next level. And so I wanted to make sure that I had someone that would actually treat my case versus have just a general approach. So
We really appreciate that. Thank you very much. And I'll say this. I'm going to say this. Every clinician is different. But as using these platforms, YouTube, Instagram, any social platform, I think that has given us the ability to really, understand clinical presentations, understand physiology, pathophysiology, and so on and so forth. I think it's important for people to understand, right? How to, in a methodical fashion, how we do things. Again, not all doctors are created equal. That's what we put, why we put out this content out there. We package it in a very kindergarten way, where people from all walks of life can actually understand, right? And when they go see their clinician or their doctor or whomever, they'll have a little bit of more background understanding of what they're going to be maybe possibly expecting or going through. And that goes a long way, in my opinion. That's something that I would want if I were in your shoes. So I'd like to take this opportunity. This is the first one. This is going to be great because maybe this is yet another approach of how we do things. We're launching a podcast shortly, but this is actually very, very cool because I think that I think a lot of people have a lot of questions. This is a great video in respect to talking about toenail fungus, aka onychomycosis of the toenails. A lot of people battle this. I can't tell you guys how many people battle this. And I'm not going to throw numbers, but it's a lot. Okay, so maybe this is the first of many to come. As always, thank you for watching.